I don't necessarily think life is about being quote unquote successful. I don't think life is about having fun necessarily. I think it's about finding fulfillment. I think ego, while it protects people, I think it's only protecting you from the truth. And if you don't get the truth, you don't get necessity to change.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, colleagues and friends, welcome to the Thomas Green podcast. Today's guest has a global top 100 podcast with more than 900 episodes. Being played in more than 120 countries, he is an entrepreneur, consultant and podcast coach, specializing in helping CEOs and entrepreneurs grow, scale, and monetize their podcasts. He is also the Chief Financial Officer of Next Level University, which helps people reach the next level in their life, love, health, and wealth. Along with his business partner, Alan, Next Level University offers world-class guest interviews, group coaching, launching or improving podcasts, business solutions such as leadership, culture, and systems coaching, developing websites, newsletters, and online courses. He also has an event on March 26th at the AC Hotel by Marriott, where he and other speakers will be teaching how to design and achieve the most aligned, fulfilling, and successful life possible. Because he isn't busy enough, he also has a book club, which is free to join, with the aim being good books with great people change lives. A big welcome back to the ever-improving, never-quit kid, Kevin Palmieri.
Thomas, best intro I've ever heard. I just hope I can live up to the introduction because it was so wonderful. Thank you for having me back. I very much enjoyed our first round, and I'm excited to see where we go today, my friend.
Well, as discussed, I've got a list of questions for you, perceived as the most difficult questions that I could possibly find. I might have ruined the first one because I got the questions before I wrote the introduction. The first question is, who are you?
You know what? At the core of it all, I am a human being who, for most of his life, did not feel good enough. And instead, for most of my life, I did allow that to stop me from trying things. But now I use that as the chip on my shoulder that puts me in front of you, that puts me in situations that scare me. I'm somebody who used their adversity as their advantage. I'm somebody who is purpose-driven, and that has created so many opportunities for me in my life. And I'm somebody who believes that with the right support, you can really, really change the trajectory of your life, and you can impact people that you would never have the opportunity to impact. I'm a regular guy who just wants to change the world. And I think it's a balance. I always want to be relatable. I always want people to be able to connect with me. That's so important to me. But as you know, as you get more quote unquote successful and more sought after, your time does go in different ways. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Everything else is what I do. It's not necessarily who I am as a human.
That's a great answer.
Thank
I'm tempted to follow up with, like, as a tease, I'm tempted to say, yeah, but who are you? Because there's this thing that people do where they're like, yeah, I'm a dad, or I'm a mum, or, you know, I work at this place. And yeah, but who are you? So I was going to say, yeah, but Kevin, who are you? Regardless of what your answer was. The next one is, do you like yourself?
I love myself more than I ever have. And I don't know if we talked about this last time, but during this journey, I remember one day I was walking around my kitchen, and I lived with my best friend at the time. I was paying $500 a month rent. I had no clients. I was single. I was pretty unhappy, all things considered, in terms of the results I had in my life. But I remember for the first time, I was fulfilled, and I was proud of who I was as a man. And that was 3 years ago, before any of these things. So yes, I really like myself. I love myself. I'm proud of myself. And I think that's directly correlated to the amount of inner work I've done. And I think it's probably similar for everybody out there. I don't buy into it's bad to talk about yourself in a positive manner. I think it's very important to talk about yourself in a positive manner, particularly because not many other people are going to do it for you. And it has to start with you. So yes, I like myself. I love myself. I'm proud of myself. All those things. Yeah.
It's interesting to get the response, because in some way, depending on who you talk to, of course, it potentially can be a lose-lose, because if you don't say that you like or you love yourself, then there's maybe some inner critic or some self-image stuff going on. If you do, then maybe societally people might say, oh, that person likes himself a bit too much.
Yeah. I've been on the other end for most of my life, the not liking myself. So I'd rather be on this. I would rather deal with external critics than continue to deal with the internal critic of myself, because I am harder on me than any other human can be, really. And I think that's the important part. And the other thing too is I think you have to look at the track record of work that you've done. Again, internal and external. If anybody ever said, well, that's kind of an egotistical thing to say, I would say, well, number one, I understand that because I would have said that too. But if you knew what I've gone through to get here and the things, the mirrors I've had to face and the difficult conversations, you'd have to love yourself too. And you also, like, I'm on camera all day, every day. Like, there's a level of, you can't really fake it. You can't fake it for 900 episodes. Like, you have to get right with yourself eventually. And it may have taken a couple hundred for sure. And I'm trying to improve at that every day, but I think it's a process. And if you're early in the process and you don't feel like you have that locked in yet, it's going to seem maybe off-putting. I think of it as very similar to the vilification of wealth. If you see somebody who's very wealthy and you don't believe you can be, one of two things. You say, oh man, what do I have to learn to get there? Or you try to tear that person down and say, money is terrible, and here's a list of reasons why. I've been on both ends, so I understand very much, and I empathize with that. But I do understand. I understand if you heard me say I love myself and you felt either way, I completely understand. I've been on both ends for sure.
Well, you brought up wealth, and it leads me to my next question, which is, what's the meaning of life?
My goodness. I believe now more than ever that the meaning of life is to grow and it's to contribute. I really feel that I've worked with a lot of millionaires, which is weird for me to say because I never expected to say that ever in my life. And this is what typically happens. They get a certain level of success, they cross a threshold, and then they decide to give back. And I've seen that with many people, not just people in the public eye or whatever it may be. So I think it's growth. I think it's contribution, and I think it's love. I think the purpose in life is to grow as much as humanly possible. With that growth, to contribute back to whether it's society or the community or whatever it may be, whether it's breadth or depth, breadth, the amount of people, depth, the depth that you help, and then love, to love as deeply as you can, because I think those things together make a wonderful life. I don't necessarily think life is about being quote unquote successful. I don't think life is about having fun necessarily. I think it's about finding fulfillment. And I think that's the reason that a lot of people aren't happy, because they assume they should be. And if you're searching for happiness, you're always searching for the next shiny object, the next ding on your phone, when fulfillment is you being on purpose, you being aligned. I think that's the purpose of life, is to find fulfillment and then live there, because that's where everything amazing comes from.
You're helping me with my next questions, because you did bring up successful. Are you successful?
I am the most successful I have ever been. It's a hard one. It's a hard one. By outside standards, I am successful. By my own standards, I am the most successful I have ever been, because on episode 7 of our podcast, I said I wanted to live the life I'm living today. But I think the wonderful thing, going back to growth, is as you grow, you get to reset your goals. And success to me is continuing to be more fulfilled, continuing to have a greater impact, continuing to master my craft more, and continuing to make money and then impacting with that money. So yes, I am the most successful I've ever been. I don't know that I'll ever cross a line where I say I am successful, because I think that almost, for me in the past, that would have denoted that it was time to stop. I'm successful now, I can stop. So now it's just, I am successful. What's the new goal? I think that's probably the best frame. And in a weird way, Thomas, Alan and I's goal is to be in the pocket of every human being on the face of the planet 7 days a week for free. That goal, statistically speaking, is pretty close to impossible. So many things would have to happen. I don't think we'll necessarily ever get to that goal, but we'll never stop trying. So will I ever have that version of success? I don't know. But will I continue trying every day for the rest of my life? Absolutely. And I think that part of it is success. And I have a wonderful relationship. I'm proud of the physique I've created. I'm proud of the way I show up. We have an awesome team. I'm proud of the bank account. I'm proud of the impact, the podcast. So yeah, all things considered, the most successful, the most fulfilled, the most aligned I've ever been, for sure.
I think based on your answer, I'm going to slightly rephrase this next one.
Okay.
Can you be successful without working hard?
Oh man, Thomas. No, I don't think you can, because it's not about the result. It's about the journey and the process. There's so many people out there that on social media, they show the shiny stuff. And for most of life, the shiny stuff equates to success. But you don't know what they're going on, or you don't know what they're going through, or what's going on behind the scenes. They might not feel quote unquote successful. And they're trying to convince people that you don't have to do the hard work. I don't know that you can find true success without hard work, because true success requires growth, and growth requires conflict. Conflict is resistance. It's work. It is hard. It is hard work. There's this thing I've seen online, and maybe you've seen it. I don't know. You're a podcaster, so you probably get certain ads that I do too. But it's this podcast thing that says, we will launch a top 100 show guaranteed with none of your work or your money back. No, it doesn't equate. It's like saying, I can get you the body of your dreams in 30 days with none of your work. It's not humanly possible. It just isn't. Physically, from a physics standpoint, from a biological standpoint, it's just not possible. So what I do think, Thomas, is I think for a while we had a toxic hustle culture. Grind your face off and don't sleep. Sleep is for the weak. Keep working. That's one end, and that's wrong. I think we've transitioned closer to only do what you feel, do what's aligned. Things will be attracted to you. And if it's supposed to be, it'll be. I think that's too far on the spiritual let it happen side. I think the middle is trust your intuition, but work very hard. Make sure your cup is filled. Absolutely. But do what's hard and necessary. Create a sustainable life. Sustainable. I told you before this that this is my 5th 14-hour day. Now, tomorrow is Saturday. We're recording this on Friday. Tomorrow is Saturday. I'll work 6 hours tomorrow, and then I'm going to watch Ultimate Fighting Championship for 7 hours. I'm filling my cup tomorrow. That's sustainable for me, and sustainable for everybody's a little bit different. So I think that's an important thing. But yeah, back to the original point. No, I don't think you can truly be successful without hard work, because success is not a result. Success is a mindset. Success is a feeling. Success is an identity. And I don't think you get that identity without hard work. I don't think you can.
Interesting. What is your greatest fear?
Not fitting in and being left behind. My biggest fear is not being good enough. Hands down. I'm afraid of planes deeply. I'm terrified of sharks at a deep level. But in a weird way, my number one fear has also really helped me, and maybe become my number one strength. Is I've talked in depth about Alan and how amazing he is as a human being. I would have gotten left behind if I didn't have a little bit of scarcity. If there was a part of me who said, I belong here no matter what, I started this company, I can just show up, I wouldn't even be here with you today. because none of this would exist. So my biggest fear is not being good enough and being left behind. And that big fear has also turned into a giant strength where I'll just try to prep as hard as possible and I'll just fit whatever I need to do. I'm very consistent because of that. And I think that if you can get to the point where you take the chip off your shoulder and replace it with ambition, that's a different life. I will always have somewhat of a chip on my shoulder, but I want to run the chip. I don't want the chip to run me. And now I am running the chip more than I ever have. Again, years and years to get there. But I think a lot of people run from that weakness. They run from that fear. But if you can transition your fear or that weakness into a strength, you can really get someplace with that because it helps. It helps. It's one of those things of, okay, on our team, we have 14 members on the NLU team. And many of the members of the NLU team are emotionally driven humans. And we all track our habits. Everybody on the team tracks at least 12 habits a day. I think last week, our average was maybe 78%. And 15 people, 12 habits a day. I do 24, but everybody else does a minimum of 12. No, not many people are doing that. Why are we doing it? Why do people track? Because they don't want to look bad. I don't get 100% because I'm the most motivated human. No. I got 100% for 1 week. And I said, I like that. That feels nice. And I never stopped getting 100%. So much, in fact, where my diet was slipping. And I told Alan, I said, I know if I put it on my system, we call it peak performance tracking. If I put it on my system, it'll get done. And he's like, do you want to put it on there? I said, I don't know if I'm ready yet because I know I'll have to do it. And I did. And I'm down 5 pounds. Why? So my point with that is we have found a weakness in many of our team members, which is fear of judgment or fear of not fitting in. And we have been able to leverage that into a positive thing by saying, look, all of our stats are public. Everybody on the team can see if I'm messing up or you're messing up. Use that as a little bit of extra motivation. And honestly, it's been wonderful. And I'm curious to see where that'll be going over the next few years, the next couple decades. We're building an app out right now based on that. But if you can understand the human behavior, you can use it as motivation. And I think everybody has that fear of not fitting in some way, shape, or form. And do you run from it or do you leverage it is the question.
Interesting. Well, congrats on the adding the thing that you didn't want in there, because I know how tempting that can be.
Yeah, it's difficult for sure. I'm very hungry, but it is what it is.
You're on your way home from a 14-hour day and you see a shiny object. What is that? You go and pick it up, dust it off a little bit, and a blue genie comes out of this lamp and says, Kevin, thank you so much. I've been in there for ages. I'm willing to offer you 3 wishes. Can't wish for more wishes, and you can't raise people from the dead or get people to fall in love with you. What are your 3 wishes?
My 3 wishes, man. I would say my number 1 wish would be for us to get overnight or in that moment to 1 million downloads, because something happens in terms of perception when you get to 1 million downloads. Will I know more when we get there? Probably not. I'm a little bit, right? I'll know a little bit more. We just crossed 500,000. I'll know a little bit more. Yes. But there's something about the number that does it. $1 million business, $1 million, 1 million downloads, something about that does it. So I would say that for the reason of I'll be able to help more people when more people think I know what I'm talking about. That's a huge thing. That is a huge thing. My second wish, and it might sound cliche, my second wish would be to raise the vibration and the frequency of the world. Because if we raise the vibration and the frequency of the world, many of the issues that we have would not be issues any longer, because the human race would be vibrating at a higher level and petty things would not be worth chasing after. I don't know what else would change. I don't know if wars would stop or any of that, but I think that would help the consciousness of the planet, which would help everything. That would be my number 2. My third wish. It's a good question. I think I would wish that personal development and self-improvement was more common and not only accessible, but accepted. There's still people who think our team is a cult. Like, that's not, I don't know where that comes from. We're not a cult. We're a cult of positivity and trying to help people get better, but it's not accessible and acceptable in some people's circles. Like, why are you trying to get better? Why are you tracking your habits? Why are you meditating? There's so much resistance to improvement. And if that resistance to improvement went away, again, it would better the planet. It would better society. It would better humanity, and everything would get better because of it. I would say those would be my three. Great question.
Well, well done to you for actually using all three in such a short amount of time, because I must admit, I mean, thinking about that myself, I'm not sure I even have an answer at all. But in reference to making the world a better place, if everyone spoke their mind, would the world be a better place?
I think there would be a lot of pain originally, because what would happen if everybody spoke their mind is everybody's relationships would get reshuffled. And I don't know if I said this on the last one, but it's just such a valuable lesson and a valuable point for me. One of my friends reached out probably a year and a half ago, and this friend of mine was suicidal at one point. And when he was suicidal, he called me, and I went to the hospital with him. I sat in the waiting room. I went to the office with him and talked with him and the counselors about the plan. And I sat there with him the whole time. And him and I were really good friends. We used to go to a lot of hockey games together, and we hung out a lot. And as this journey continued for me, I spent less and less time with certain people, not because I didn't love them, but because I was more aligned doing this. I would rather be here with you, Thomas, doing my mission, my purpose, the thing that I'm so passionate about, than hanging out and talking about something that I just am not super aligned with. That's part of being on your mission, on purpose. And one day he reached out and said, Kev, I feel like you and I aren't great friends anymore. Can you be the friend that you once were for me? And I sent him an audio, and I said, I mean this with all the love in the world. This is going to sound egotistical, but I have to tell you, no, I cannot, because I have so many things going on that you don't know. 7 episodes a week. I think at the time it was 6 episodes a week, 6 gym sessions. I'm getting engaged. We have a 14-person team, right? I have 20 clients. I'm not sleeping. I'm $30,000 in debt. I'm grinding my face off. I'm burning to the ground. No, I can barely take care of myself right now. I can never be that friend for you like I used to be. We went through a phase where we didn't talk. Now, every time there's fights on, he's a big fan of mixed martial arts. We text during the fights. What happened? My truth shuffled the deck and reset the friendship at where it has to be now. That was me saying, look, I want to be friends with you, but it has to be at this capacity. So if the world, maybe a pill dropped from the sky and we all took that pill and we all told the truth, it would be a lot of pain for a decent amount of time, but that pain would subside. And I think everybody would move into alignment, because when you know the truth, there isn't anything to hide behind. When you know the truth, you will have an ego with it for a while, but eventually, if you take ownership, you can make changes. I do believe that if everybody spoke their truth, the world would be a much, much, much better place eventually. Not right off the bat. I think right off the bat, it would probably be mayhem, and there'd be a lot of fights and a lot of divorces, but there'd also eventually be a lot of marriages, and there'd be a lot of hugs on the other end. So yes, for sure.
So do you tend to, this is not on my list, do you tend to apply that principle as much as you can in your own life?
I'm working on it. I would say that is one of my biggest weaknesses for sure. I don't like making people feel uncomfortable. It's hard. I avoid confrontation. If you and I went out to a restaurant and they gave me the complete wrong dish, I would just eat it. And I wouldn't say anything. I might not even say anything to you. I might just say, oh boy, all right, I'm going to eat it. So I think that candor, having a courageous, truthful conversation, is a big weakness for me. And it's something I'm definitely working on. I've done it with my partner, Tarryn, and it's been wonderful. And we're very truthful with one another. And every time we are, everything gets better. Same with my business partner, Alan. Same with the team. I've leaned into it. But it is very, very, very difficult, especially when in your past, the truth really hurt people and you were afraid to hurt people because you didn't know where you fit in the grand scheme of things. So I'm definitely practicing it, but full disclosure, it is a bit of a weakness of mine at the time. Yeah.
Is living life to the fullest possible?
Is living life to the fullest possible? Yes, because it is contextual. So I have a coffee cup here. Can I fill it to the top? Yes. But if you give me a new coffee cup, then I have to refill it. So I think that living life to the fullest is trying to become the best version of yourself. I really do. Alan and I did a live podcast last night, and we talked about 5 different points. And I think it was growth, it was fulfillment, it was monetization, it was love, and it was impact. Growth. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to grow to the level that you can impact enough people to make $1 million worth of change to become a millionaire. If you want to fall in love, you have to grow to the point where you attract and then continue growing to the point where you can sustain the relationship. Growth, and we talked about that earlier, growth is the key to everything. So in order to live life to the fullest, I think you have to consistently chase your potential, whatever your unique potential is. I'm 5'4". I'm not playing professional basketball, most likely. And I'm not going to be a professional swimmer because I sink like a rock. Those probably aren't in the cards for me. Maybe that's not my potential. But what if being the best speaker in the world is my potential? What if it is? Then right now, in this moment, if I'm doing my best, which I am, then I'm living my life to the fullest in this moment, during this conversation. I am doing my thing. And after this interview, when I go back to real life and behind the scenes and the camera's off, then what do? Do I scroll through my phone for 3 hours? I'm probably not living life to the fullest if I'm doing that. So I think that yes, it is possible, and it is possible every day. And eventually the fullest becomes more and more and more and more. Alan said this to me one time, and I got to give him credit. It's something that really, really helped me expand a lot of my thinking. Everybody does their best, right? Everybody does their best or has the opportunity to do their best. Not everybody betters their best. And that is living life to the fullest. There's a difference between saying, yeah, I did my best. And then there's a difference between saying I did that, and afterwards I said, how do I do better than my last best? And I think that is it. I really do.
I think that's probably a healthy way of looking at it as well. And my interpretation of the question is like, what's your absolute maximum potential that you could ever do as a human being?
Yeah.
And I think, and whether or not that's realistic, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, my interpretation from your answer is that it's about the aspiration more than it is the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm never going to be, I mean, again, I don't want to say that, but am I going to get an award that says you're the best podcaster ever? Probably not, unless somebody sends one and I appreciate it. But it really is the aspiration that creates the systems, that creates the habits. It's not about what you want to accomplish. It's about who you must become to accomplish it. And that just really is it. I don't expect to accomplish some of the things that I want to, but I know I'll become the type of person who can. And I think that's what we're all playing for anyway. I think it's not about the shiny object. That's not what it's about. It's about becoming the type of person who can get that through their own example, through their own character. I think, Thomas, that's one of the reasons why so many people find success and then realize that it's not what they wanted or not what they expected or not fulfilling them at the level they did or at the level they wanted because they didn't work on themselves enough to get it. And it doesn't feel earned because it's not real. It's not real. I did a post yesterday about fake followers. I said, if you're buying fake followers and fake likes, you're most likely not a real person. You're not focused on getting better. So I will beat you eventually. Eventually. I don't know when it's going to be. It might be years and years down the line, but because I'm growing and you're not, you're skipping the growth. It's not about the aspiration for you. It's about the goal. The problem is you will lose the goal because you have not built up the competency through work. That's all it is. Anybody could say they have 900 episodes. Anybody can go buy a bunch of podcast downloads. Sure, everybody can. But the thing is, do you have the competency to actually stand up to what you say you have? And many people don't, especially if you're taking the shortcuts. If you're taking the shortcuts, you don't. So yeah, to your point, the result is great. The shiny object is great. It's the aspiration that creates the competency, the capability to get it. And then you get things you never would have expected also with opportunity. So yes, aspiration over result for sure. I just go off on everything you say, Tom. It's like, it's no quick answers here.
Hello, this is Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and we are well into 2022. And maybe you are not willing to have a repeat of the last 2 years. Or perhaps you've had an inkling for quite some time that you are destined for something greater than what you're experiencing in your reality right now. Maybe it's your business or your work, and you know that there's greater value and impact that you can have in your community. Or maybe it's love and connection that's been eluding you. Or perhaps it's your health and wellness, and you know that you can feel better, do better than this. Well, join us at Next Level Live, March 26th, a full day immersion with experts in their field to help guide you on how to bring your life to the next level. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Is there anything that you should have let go of a long time ago, but you are still holding on to?
100%, 100%. One of my favorite quotes is, so many people focus and track how much they've learned, right? I learn, quote unquote, learn for 45 minutes minimum every day through books and YouTube videos, whatever it is. How much am I unlearning every day? How much am I going within and saying, this hasn't been working since I was 20 years old. Why don't I do something different? So the thing that I wish I let go was needing approval. I've had a lot of self-worth issues for my life. And again, there's some strengths that come with that. But to this day, I still, if I get a negative message from a client, even if it's not that negative. So I'll give you an example. I got an email yesterday from a potential client, and her and I are in talks about running her podcast, and something got crossed in translation in communication where she has 2 podcasts. And I said to her, it's going to be very hard for you to win on 2 different podcasts because you're only going to be able to do 50% effort on both. You're never going to get to the level you might if you did one. And that's my belief. And she thought I was saying we wouldn't take her on as a client if she had 2 podcasts. I read the email and she was very sad about that. And it genuinely hurt me because I was like, oh my God, she doesn't like me. Oh my goodness, she doesn't like me. And I got triggered and I went to the place of, oh man, I suck and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. And this was yesterday. So I'm trying to be as vulnerable as possible. And I got internal, I got in my feels, and I went to that low self-worth place. And that's something that definitely has to go because not everybody is going to like you. It still hurts me when we get a bad review. It still hurts me for sure. Absolutely. Because that's one person who doesn't like me and that hurts. So tying my self-worth and my good enoughness to what other people tell me or other people's feelings or other people's insecurities, that's something I have to get rid of for sure. And I think everybody does.
I don't know whether to elaborate on that or not, because my question, I suppose, is around whether or not it's beneficial to have a certain element of that. Because if you don't have any of that, I think that the phrase is like, if you have no concerns about other people's opinions, you're like in the category of a psychopath. But I suppose would you say it's important to have a bit more balance?
I think it's just the layer of understanding that almost nobody is right. One of my clients told me that one time. He said, you have to understand, Kev, when it comes to the press, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. You're always somewhere in the middle. And I think that's kind of the lesson is, am I a bad blank because this person doesn't like the way I did something? Probably not. So yeah, I do. I agree with you. And especially if you're in business in the beginning, you have to like really jump through hoops because nobody knows who you are and you don't have any proof yet. So especially if you're an entrepreneur out there, it's weird, Thomas. I got out of the shower and I was thinking, I'm talking to Thomas today. I literally was thinking of this and I was thinking of questions you might ask. This is my process. I don't know. And I said that I would say this on the podcast. I don't know if it'll land. I don't know where it'll go, but when we're talking about self-worth, when you're starting something, it's very important that you understand your self-worth and your value are not the same. When I had one episode worth of practice of a podcast, I could have been a very high self-worth, confident. I'm a capable human. Intrinsically, I'm amazing, but I can't help you. I'm not as valuable when it comes to podcast coaching. So if I go into every understanding that my self-worth, my self-esteem determines my value contextually, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. Both ends. That goes with both ends. So I've seen people who they say, I know my worth. I will not work for any less than this. And they don't have any clients. It's because you have those two lines crossed. Just because you drop your price to get a client does not mean you're lowering your self-worth. It means you're understanding your true value in the marketplace. I don't know if that helps anybody, if that makes any sense, but I said I felt it after I got out of the shower, so I wanted to add that.
Well, I'm glad you did. It's a point worth reflecting on. I'm interested in this one because it'd be subjective to you. If your inner voice was an actual person and talked to you the way it usually does, would you enjoy the conversation and keep in touch with them?
No, I would have eliminated them out of my life a long time ago. My inner voice is one telling me I'm not good enough. Always. I told Alan this recently. I said, you have to understand, I know this journey has been hard for you in different ways, but I don't know that you'll ever, and it's both, right? It goes both ways. I don't know that you'll ever know how difficult this was for me. I don't know how you could possibly understand. My first speech I ever gave was in front of 50 people. The second speech I gave we had to get on a plane and fly for 3 hours. And Evan Carmichael spoke on stage. Evan Carmichael, the YouTube guy, spoke on stage with us. I spoke on the same stage as Evan Carmichael for my second speech in front of 150 people, whatever it was. I wasn't ready for that. And the story I told myself internally was, you are going to bomb this. You're going to do terribly. So I'm always fighting against myself more than anything else. Thomas, I've had so many amazing people believe in me. I really have. It's always been me who didn't believe in me. I'm my biggest critic. I'm my biggest resistance for sure. And that's starting to shift through the reps and through the experience. But I would have a fist fight with my inner self, most likely. It would not be a peaceful conversation for sure.
Funny. I did, as a side note, I did watch one of your episodes with Evan, and I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
You prepped a lot for it and drove a long way. It was that one.
Yes. Yeah, that was, oh my goodness. It's really hard when you sit down with somebody and they say, okay, we have 43 minutes, cameras on. Okay, go. It's just like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Okay. But thank you. I appreciate the compliment very much.
No worries. What type of legacy do you want to leave behind?
That's a great question. Great questions, Thomas. So one of the things that really drives me is I just want to be a good human. I want people to feel good around me. I want people to feel safe. I want people to feel hopeful. I want to leave every interaction a little bit better than it was when I started it. Yes, I want to have a high net worth and I want to have nice things and I want to impact billions of people. I want all those things. But the through line of it all is Kevin Palmieri was just a good person who had my best interest at heart. And he was authentic. He was real. He was reliable. He was trustworthy. That's the legacy I want. I just want people to know I meant well. And that's why I do everything I do. Really. I was on a podcast yesterday. I stayed on for 30 minutes after and talked to this person about their show. And it's like, I just love that. My fear is losing that. One of my big fears is that I'm going to get to the place where I can't do that anymore. And I'm setting up my life in a way that doesn't happen, or it happens as limited as possible. I send videos to my followers. Like, I want to be that. I don't have to, but I want to. I aspire to be somebody who is just world-class and a professional and successful and consistent and capable, but also in a weird way, if you met me at a restaurant, you'd never know. That's kind of what I'm playing for. I want to be the most extraordinary regular guy. I really do. I really do. And I want to leave every interaction better than I found it. And I don't mean the human. I'm not saying I'm going to improve every person. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I want it to be a positive energy when I leave. That guy, oh, he's real. Like, he did something. He's just good. He left a good tip. He gave me a piece of advice. He let me go in front of him in the grocery store. That just every interaction I want to be as positive as humanly possible.
Sounds great. And from the interactions I've had with you, I can say that that's been the case for me.
I appreciate that more than you know.
The flip side of that, are there any mistakes you keep making over and over again?
Oh, man. Yeah, for sure. Even though we're doing very well financially, anytime even something minuscule happens, I immediately retract to scarcity. Every time. We lose a client who's paying us $500 a month. In the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world, but immediately I shell up and it's like, oh, what does this mean? Is everything crashing and burning? So I have to continue understanding the wounds that I have around money, and being the CFO has been very, very helpful because I'm in charge of the money, which is great. So yeah, for sure. Understanding and continuing to course correct past conditioning when it comes to money. That's a big, big, big one for me.
Yeah, I sort of know what you mean. When you're out there on your own with your own business, you kind of have to be sensitive to those types of scenarios. So I get what you mean. Slightly, I mean, these aren't in any order whatsoever, but I happen to like this question. What is friendship?
That's it. That is a tough one. That's the toughest question you've asked so far. I think friendship is contextual. And I believe that's why it's so hard for very, very ambitious people to remain friends with many people. For many people, I think friendship is quality time with somebody that you love. For me, friendship is knowing somebody has your best interests at heart and they genuinely want what's best for you, regardless of what happens to them in the process. That is my definition of friendship. I love the people that I don't see. It's not that I don't love them. I don't consider them friends. I don't think they consider me friends because I don't check the quality time box. I'll try to wish you a happy birthday. I forgot my birthday. So I don't want you to take it personally if I don't remember yours. I don't celebrate my birthday really. My fiance makes me because she says you gotta celebrate every once in a while. So I don't think I check the box as a typical friend, and that's painful to say, and it hurts sometimes, but I try to be the friend that I want because that's what's sustainable for me. So yeah, a real true best friend has your best interests at heart. They want what's best for you, regardless of what that means for the amount of time they see you or the amount of birthday wishes you send them or whatever it may be. It's about the depths of helping me and them achieve their purpose. If my purpose is to change the world, and that's what I'm aiming for, a good friend to me is somebody who supports that. And honestly, those are the only people I have in my life. I'm very blessed. And I've been very proactive in reallocating time with people who don't align with that. And that's something that I've worked very hard on. But the people in my life, I said this to somebody the other day, Thomas, one of my friends. She said, I'm grateful that I met you, and I'm so grateful for all that you've done for me in your life, or in my life. And I said, I'll always be here in whatever capacity I can. I can't guarantee it's going to be seeing you every week. I don't know what it's going to be, but I will always do my absolute best to be there when you need me. And I think that's part of it. Yeah.
I think there's a theme maybe that I've picked up on, which is intent. So intent is important simply because people can interpret things in different ways, but as long as you have good intent, that's what matters, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. It's intent to me is the precursor to proof. That because if my intent was to come on here and add value, I had to reschedule recently. You and I were supposed to sit down, and we had to reschedule because my schedule got mangled and something happened. I intended on coming on. I wanted to come on. It wasn't because I was hiding, but my intent was to say, Thomas, I made a mistake. This is totally on me. I want you to know that I value your time as a human being, and this isn't me overlooking you, or this isn't me not valuing you. And I want to come on. Please let me know how to make this better. And that was my intent. And I think that sometimes you can see the through line of feelings, even if the results and the actions don't line up. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people say, well, I didn't mean to hurt you when I said that. It's like, well, you did. So how do we stop and get the understanding that what you said hurt me, even though you didn't intend? So I think it does go both ways. But to your point, I'm trying to stay on the positive front with that. Yeah, for sure.
Is it more important to be respected or liked?
If you had to choose one or the other, there's so many layers. I think it depends on how you get respect. But if you're a leader, it's important to be Thomas. I'm going to go with the unpopular liked. Because I think when people aim to be respected, they think they have to be above everybody else and they have to look down. And I think a real leader, they lead from the front, but not above. They can help chart the course and they can do all that, but they're there to lift up other people. And I think that if you really want to impact people at a deep, deep level, and this probably isn't the popular answer, I think you have to be liked, because people don't work with people that they don't like unless they're afraid, usually, unless they're in a scarce place. And that, again, it's not sustainable. If you look at, and this is the other thing, you can be respected for being liked, because if you're liked, maybe you're liked because of how supportive you are, how appreciative, how empathetic. If you look at the companies that have the highest morality ratings, it's not because they're the bosses and the CEOs are the hardest ones to work for. It's because they've designed the company to be the best for the employees. And I think those companies are well liked, which then they're respected because they're liked. So I think it goes hand in hand. So I don't know if that's the common popular way, but that's the way I'm going with it.
Kind of dodged that one by saying both, which is, I didn't give any rules, so you're totally fine doing that. This is a sort of similar question, which is having a big ego a negative trait or a positive trait?
I would say having a big ego is a negative trait. And in this context, ego is both arrogance and insecurity. So I think when you have a big ego, all an ego is a protector. It's protecting you from the truth. If you have an arrogant ego, you're not willing to look at the truth. So there are people out there, Alan and I know some people we grew up with who they think they know everything and they can't ever be wrong. The problem with that, and it's a protector, they're being protected from being wrong. The problem is if you're not humble enough to find the answers, you'll never have them. So that's a negative. There's also people that I know who are super, super insecure and they assume that they're terrible at everything that they do. That ego, which is a big ego, it stops them from trying things. I think a big ego is a weakness. It's a bad thing because it stops you from getting actual feedback. And when you don't get actual feedback, you don't have the necessity to grow and you don't know where you stand. I would say, I mean, we all know, maybe we all don't know, but there's movies about it. There's tales about the bully who has a very big ego, and the bully assumes he can beat up anybody. But if you throw him in a ring with somebody who's a professional, that ego gets lowered and that person gets humbled. I think the opposite also has to happen too, though. If you're somebody who doesn't believe in yourself and somebody throws you into an opportunity and you succeed, you get feedback that you're better than you think you are. And I think ego stops people from seeking feedback, seeking advice, seeking support, asking questions. I think ego, while it protects people, I think it's only protecting you from the truth. And if you don't get the truth, you don't get necessity to change.
How do you feel about that one? Good?
Yeah. I didn't skip it. I didn't say, well, both.
By what age should you know what you want to do with your life?
I don't know that there is one. Because I think as long as you're trying to seek it. If you think about it, when you're 5 years old, you're bouncing all over the place from this thing to this thing to this thing to this thing. The goal is to have a pyramid where the older you get, the more honed you get to what you actually want out of life. I don't believe that there is an age. I mean, there's countless stories of actors and actresses who get their first big role when they were 80. That happens all the time. There's also child actors and actresses who start when they're 5, and that isn't even their thing. So I think as long as you're on the pursuit of clarity, it's not even about finding it. It's about finding more and more and more. And this is the other thing too. This is the other layer. I never knew I wanted to be a podcaster until I started podcasting, but I never could have been a podcast coach until I started podcasting. And I never would have gone on other shows until I became a podcaster. So everything came from that one thing that I tried, I realized I liked, and then everything kind of multiplied off of that. I would just say try as much stuff as humanly possible for as long as you can. And when something lands and you know it spiritually, then try to do more of that. But it's just a level. It's a level of alignment, a level of clarity. And I don't think it matters. I don't think the age matters. I think it's the pressure that people put on themselves that actually makes it harder.
Great answer.
Thank you, sir.
No, I won't push for an actual, but what's the number? How do you know when to end a friendship?
Oh, man. It's a good question. Ask yourself this question. Is this friendship the best from my past or the best for my future? If this friendship is only happening from a point of nostalgia, because we used to blank together. We used to go to high school. We used to go to the gym. We used to go to college together. We used to drink together. We used to whatever together. Is that serving you in your future? That is my answer is this. A friendship should end if it is not the best for your future. If this person doesn't believe in your goals, if they don't believe in your dreams, if they don't have the same, and again, this part is all personal, but if they don't have the same core beliefs, the core aspirations, the core values, if things are too far out of alignment, it's time to end any relationship. Anyone. Even if it's family, if it's too far out of alignment, you're doing yourself a disservice by keeping it. Even though you're supposed to love them, I understand that from a cultural perspective, but that's not the truth. If somebody is not supporting you and they're crapping on your dreams, or they're crapping on your relationship, or they're crapping on who you want to date, or the way you want to show up, or any of that stuff, if your family is not supportive of who you are as a human being, it's probably not a great relationship to be in. And I have a very weird relationship with that. My dad left when I was young, and I was very good at just cutting people out of my life. So, I understand it's not that way for most people, but there are so many people out there who are afraid to be their authentic selves. And the people that they're afraid to be their authentic selves around are the people closest to them. That's a problem. That's just a problem. And Alan always says, this is a good one. Notice if you're out there right now and you post different stuff on Instagram than you do Facebook, there's a reason. It's because your family doesn't follow you on Instagram, or your friends don't follow you on Instagram. They follow you on Facebook though. And that's like another layer. But if it's outside of alignment of the person that you are and you want to be, it's time to start reallocating time in these friendships for sure.
Great answer. The next question is weirdly specific. And I think I saw it and I was like, I wonder what Kevin would do. After this one, we may have to go quickfire though, because we're running out of time.
Okay.
So what do you do if you see a parent berating a child?
Oh man. It's hard, right? It's so hard. The ego part of me wants to say you stop it. But the real part of me, the authentic version of Kevin, Alan and I saw this. We were going to Florida. We were in the airport, and there was this family. It was a man and a woman and 3 children. And the man was drunk. It was like 9 a.m. and the man was drunk, and the mother was juggling 3 children, trying to feed them. And the guy was swearing at the kid, and one of the kids fell down and hit his head, and he was like dragging the child. And Alan and I get emotional talking about that. Alan and I, we tapped into purpose. Alan and I grew up in families that it wasn't necessarily a personal development environment. And there was a lot of male ego in my life. And I think me personally, I go back to purpose. What am I really going to be able to do in that moment that's not going to lead to something? Like, did I want to fight the person? Of course, sure. But this isn't a movie. I can't do that. I have too much to lose. This person has a family. Like, I can't do that. I tap back into purpose. When I see somebody homeless that hurts me, whether I give money or not, it's tapping into purpose. It's when I see pain, when I see something like that triggers me, I tap into purpose and I think about, why does that hurt me? That hurts me because so many people in our community have been hurt by people with egos. I know so many of our listeners who have been abused mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually. That is why. It's because of that. It's because of that ego. It's because of that toxic ego, whatever it is. So as much as I'd like to say something in the moment, I probably won't. If that makes me a coward, I understand. But I go back to purpose, and I go back to why I do what I do. And I make sure that I use that to relight the fire inside me.
Interesting.
Painful one. Tough one for me, Thomas.
How are you doing for time?
I'm good.
So happy to do the quick fire ones?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it so hard to say you're wrong?
Oh man, it's so hard to say you're wrong because oftentimes you're the only person in your circle doing it. If you were in a relationship with a bunch of other people who admitted they were wrong, it'd be easier for you.
Is the most important purpose in life happiness? And if not, what is?
No, fulfillment. Happiness is result driven. Fulfillment is purpose driven.
Why do we do things we do not like to do?
Because we believe the outcome will be worth it. And if we don't believe the outcome will be worth it, we don't do it.
Do we control technology, or is technology controlling us?
Ooh, that is a great question. I've learned so much about exponential organizations and computer learning and AI recently. So my answer will be different than it would have been a year ago. We control technology because we are the ones who created it. It learns faster than we do, but I think at the end of the day, we're living in a different dimension. We control technology.
If you could become immortal on the condition you would never be able to die, would you choose immortality?
Whew. No, because I'd lose everybody I love every time, forever.
What should be the goal of humanity?
To live, to grow, learn, contribute, and chase fulfillment.
How would humanity change if life expectancy was 500?
Oh my goodness. I think people would be way more willing to play the long game for sure. And I think a lot of marriages would change that part too. And people wouldn't take the jobs they take, because 500 years is a long time.
If you could teach everyone in the world one concept, what would it be?
The biggest difference between who you are and who you want to be is your habits. Going back to what we talked about earlier, you have to believe it will be worth it. Whatever your habits are, you have to believe it will be worth it. And if you don't, human beings have must have three beliefs in order to do something. It will be worth it. It is possible. And it is possible for me. If you don't believe in any of those, check in with why and how to fix it, and you'll be able to accomplish that goal.
What do you think your future self will remember about you now?
What it was like to feel valued at the level, first time I've ever really felt valued from other humans like I do now. And I'll remember the fact that we just recorded our 900th episode for sure. Those always sit with me. So I'll remember that. I'll remember the valued thing, and I'll remember where I'm living. It'll be very nostalgic for me. It always is when I look back, always.
How much control does a person have over their own life?
Oof. I'd like to say 100%, but I don't think you can, because there are circumstances. You have as much control as you're willing to take. I know that's a cop-out too, but you have as much control as you're willing to take. There are people who have had way less opportunity than I, who are way more successful than I will ever be. It's because they took control of what they had and they kept going. And, you know, I'm blessed because I'm a white male in America. So I have privileges that a lot of other people don't. And I understand that. But it doesn't mean that you can't take the opportunities that you have at whatever level that is. And I understand they're different. So yeah, it's up to you. It's really up to you as a human.
Are you happy that I'm at the end of my list of questions?
I'm not, Thomas. I love these. These are very, very awesome interviews. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate what you put into them. And I'm always happy to come back. I'll come back a million times.
All right. Well, I've really enjoyed it. I knew you'd be up to the task. For people, I feel like the introduction, I worked hard on the introduction, and I feel like that did it. But if someone wants to know more, where do they go?
Yeah, well, I always send people to the podcast, Next Level University, 7 episodes a week, any podcast platform, YouTube, you can find us anywhere. And I am at Never Quit Kid on Instagram, as Thomas so eloquently spoke.
Well done for that. I feel like if it was the other way around, I feel like I'd be exhausted. So congratulations for making it through. Thank you for your contribution.
Of course. I appreciate it, Thomas.